Sigrid Dyekjaer. She should be somewhere there. There we go, she is here, woohoo! Now Sigrid is a producer. She's produced over 30 documentary films. The main focus today is on The Territory, which was released in 2022 at she premiered it at the Sundance Festival. And it's by Alex Pritz. It won 2 awards at the Sundance Festival, and we can now announce it also has a Peabody, and it was shortlisted for an Oscar as well. So thank you very much for joining us, Sigrid.
Of course, nice to see you. I'm in Copenhagen.
She's in Copenhagen at the moment, thank you. So I'm going to start with going with Flore here. Now, one of the first scenes in Bigger Than Us, one of the early scenes has, it sees Melati in a school that's been set up in Lebanon, and she's drawing stick images of ideas and people with ideas, and how that can spread and how it can move from one person to another and how one idea can have a huge impact. Now, I'd like to know, how important is that scene in terms of the aim of the whole film?
Wow, thank you for remembering this scene. Well, I remember well when we shot this scene, and it's a documentary, right? So you never ask your people to do something. It's really from Melati and her heart, and this is really, really profound to her, and this is what she does. She's always telling me, you know, it's not enough to be an activist today or to be inspired. What we have to do is to educate each other. And so this is really, really major to me. And we put that at the beginning of the film for people to understand that each and every story in the film will be an opportunity for connection. And you know, sharing ideas, sharing stories, and how we inspire. And maybe we'd never know. I mean, I myself, the film has been released 18 months ago. I'm still on the road every day to screen it, because I'm really, really convinced that to beat the narrative that is all over the Netflix and the Amazons of these worlds, we have to connect again. We have to be in the same room. We have to start the conversation. You have to put your body on the line. Mm-hmm. And this is what this magical drawing of Melati is saying. We never know what we trigger, but we have to try.
And that idea of discussion is something really important with Sigrid and The Territory. Now, the film made me cry on more than one occasion, and there was one line that really stuck with me, Sigrid, and that was when Sergio was talking about the Uruguay people just living. You know, they're just living, they're not contributing anything to society, but it did have that opposite side of the view. It did have the view of the land grabbers and so on and so forth. So I'd like to know, how did you manage to get the so-called, now I'm doing this very much in inverted commas, villains to speak about what they were doing?
Well, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you so much for actually being able to participate today, even though I'm sitting, you know, on the other end of Europe, at least not the other end of the world. And yes, that was a very difficult task, and also not so planned in a way. We started the film with Alex Pritz going to the Amazon, meeting Nadinia and meeting the Uruguay community. And he thought in his mind that the film was going to be about the community, of course, and about this very young leader who's 19 years old at this time, and who is very aware and very interested in cameras and drones and technology that could actually help him to do surveillance of the territory. So that was his initial thought, and we actually felt lucky that we had a main character that was by himself interested in technology, and not us arriving with technology and having this white indigenous sort of clash. So we fell in love with Bita because he was and is who he is, and actually he very fast said, well, it's fine if you want to do a film about me and my community and the fight we're doing every day to protect this forest, which is huge. It's the size of Costa Rica. So it's huge. And there are only 180 people that are protecting this area. And he actually said, you know, it's fine if you want to do a film about me and my territory and my people, but we're not the problem. The problem is the other side, and we're not actually able to speak with them. So if you really want to make a genius movie, you should go visit the other side. And Alex was, of course, super worried, afraid he was going to get killed. He's a young American guy, and he didn't feel comfortable about it. But they said, don't worry, you're American. They'll love you. They love America. They love everything about Western movies, by the way. And they love this whole idea that land is empty until you go and you conquer it. And the American dream is actually that idea. So he went because he was initiated by his participants and co-collaborators, the Uro Iwawao community.
Oh, amazing. It's incredible that it was the suggestion of the other side to get involved, to make sure we had that whole picture. And something I found incredible about it was you could see that they were real people who, you know, they just wanted a better life for themselves. Now, both of the films show us...
And that's also what the Uro Iwawao community were saying. They were like, we actually don't know what the problem is. And so if you could ask them, you know, openly why they're doing this, and, you know, why are they actually cutting down the rainforest? And in the film, it's sort of twisted around. So it's actually the Uro Iwawao community that are the clever ones, the educated ones, the ones that say that there is a climate problem and it's going to get even worse for all of you if you cut down our forest, and we won't be able to protect it by ourselves. So the land grabbers and the settlers, they think they're moving Brazil forward and they think that they can take care of their families, but actually they're cutting down the forest, and that's actually eventually going to kill their families in the long run.
Yeah,
and
everyone
yes,
else's.
we did it as, yeah, everyone else's. So we did it as an open, interesting, curious way of actually figuring out what were their thoughts and why were they doing this.
Now both of the films show us stories that don't only empower us watching it, they also show the empowerment of those people telling the stories. So I want to know, Flore, how can we bring this to an everyday setting?
Well, I'm on the documentary side, and I think it's the idea of going at the other side of the world, shooting a film, capturing a story, coming back here, showing it to Cannes and moving to something else is absolutely obscene. And we could not do that anymore. We have to commit to the people we are filming. We have to commit to our stories. I was very impressed by the first discussion here about how Hollywood is questioning its very role in terms of narratives and not only production. This is for everyone. This is for everybody here. And as far as I'm concerned, it's such a privilege to do a film. It's such a privilege to go and meet people and spend time with them and to collect their story. It's just the start of the adventure. And I know the territory has done a lot. And I was basically also inspired by one of the initiatives you had. For me, the game is all about how you commit to the people you have filmed. It's really, if not, you are trapped in this supremacy, overproduction, things that we are trying to change even here. I mean, this is the core of the problem. So for example, as far as Bigger Than Us is concerned, we have launched an NGO, Bigger Than Us Support, whose aim is to support the protagonist of the film, so it's 7 people, on the long run. So basically we started, as any business people here, with financial support, but we said no, it's just a small part. We realized that the biggest problem for the youth today, which they are the target of our film, is mental health. And it's so it's difficult for everybody, it's difficult for the youth, and it's even worse for young activists. So one of the biggest goal of our support is to provide them a safety net, so whatever they do, they can rely on us. And I think this is very important, and this is our way to commit to them. And we also are going to go back in the film, in the field, in their respective countries to do community screenings, as we have done here in France. We have done more than 4,300 community screenings and 500 debates. There's no reason why we should focus only on our audience here in Europe and not do the same effort and joy for the people we have initially filmed. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a follow-up on camera. We just do not know what's going to be the end goal of that, but just we want to have the story to know what they have become, because we have started the film 4 years ago. So I think this is one way of answering the question. It was, okay, what is the whole point of doing films?
Now, you mentioned there about the impact, and obviously the territory has won lots of awards. Congratulations again. But I'd like to know more, not about the awards and the glamour and the ceremonies. I'd like to know more about the impact. So what is an impact campaign, and how do you plan it?
Well, I think for us, it was really, the very first goal of this film. We asked ourselves, why should we go to the Amazon and make a film here? And as you were saying, are we exploiting people? Are we collaborating with people? Or what is really the goals here? And for us, it was definitely to create an impact. And I think that is a word that's being used all over the place. Mm-hmm. And I think what I've learned for producing all these films for many, many years is it's always good to figure out what are the goals, what is the impact campaign exactly, what do we want to reach, and how do we want to do it. So we actually, already when we financed the film, we found partners where we said, if we go on and sell this film, are you able to, the investment you've put in, to actually, if you gain your investment back, will you reinvest into the impact campaign? And we were lucky to find places like Luminate and Doc Society that actually reinvested the money once we've sold the film to National Geographic. So we actually had $500,000 to start our impact campaign, and that's much more than many film producers, film productions have. For us, it was not a campaign that was, interested in how many eyeballs can we get on the film. That's mostly what producers think. Oh, we're going to have millions of people watch the film, and then we're going to do change. I mean, yes, maybe not. It's great to have a lot of people watch your film, but you really need to figure out what you want to gain from all this watching the movie. And so we actually spent quite a long time to go and speak with the Uruiwawao community, with other indigenous communities, and say, okay, in the lucky, great world, we receive a lot of money for the impact campaign. By the way, there are co-producers, so they made equally much money on the film as we did selling to Nat Geo. There are our collaborators, our co-producers. They have money that flushed back into their funds as soon as we sold the film. So that's one thing. But the impact campaign, which is another thing, we actually asked them, what do you want to gain from this? And they said, we have two very important goals. We want to build a media center inside the rainforest because we want to make sure we own our own narratives and that we can control this narrative and that we can film what's going on in the Amazon and we can deliver that online with internet, and CNN and everybody else can show how the rainforest is burning, but we actually want to produce it, direct it, cut it, and we want to make the money on it. Because that's the problem, is that they never were part of that money chain, and they need money in order to get new surveillance systems. Cameras deteriorate very fast in the rainforest. They need cars, and they need interior for this media center that we've actually were able to build. So that was the first very important goal. We managed to have arms with the government in Brazil, so they were able to get the logs that were illegally logged in the Amazon and use those illegally logs of wood to build the media center from. The second goal they had was, we want to change laws. We want to make sure that products coming from deforested lands, that they are banned. And that's a very big goal. And we had to use a lot of energy to figure out, how do we get to politicians? How do we get into the EU? You know, because America, forget America. You can't like meet any politicians. They don't do anything unless they get a tons of voters. So we were like, we gotta do Europe. And I'm a Dane, and Denmark is very small. So you can very quickly get to Danish politicians. And the Danish politicians were crying when they watched the film, and, you know, took that legislation with them and said, sure, we're going to go back to Brussels and we're going to change this. And showing the film in Brussels to all the politicians, having our cinematographer, local cinematographer from the Uru Iwawau community, flown in, doing a big speech at the EU Parliament in Brussels, right before the voting was going to happen. That just made sure that the law was voted in for, and it's going to be implemented in Europe next year. And it's going to ban products coming from all deforested lands. So not only in Brazil, also in Indonesia, in Africa, Malaysia. And it's, of course, coffee, and it's soy, it's wood, it's palm oil, and it's, of course, meat. Meat is the biggest sinner in all this climate storytelling universe. So I would say that we managed. And then the third thing was, of course, to have our indigenous community meet as many indigenous communities on the planet so that they didn't feel lonely. So, you know, when you are with Nat Geo and Disney, you get a huge Oscar campaign, and I'm not going to say the numbers here, but they are huge. And they would normally send out the filmmaker, the producers, all around the world to promote the film. We said from the beginning, we don't want that. You are going to send the indigenous community out. They need to meet other indigenous, and they need to feel that they're not alone in this world, because most biodiverse land on this planet is guarded by indigenous communities, and they need to feel that they are together and that they know about each other and that they do this fight together and that we all actually help them. If we protect indigenous, we're going to protect land. And that's how the ecosystem actually works fastest, quickest, and most sustainable. So we actually spend a ton of the money from the Oscar campaign sending our indigenous community to Australia, to New Zealand, to South America, to South Africa, you know, Greenland, wherever we could get them out meeting other indigenous. That was the goal. So yes, we actually ended up raising $500,000. We could still need 200,000 because we want to build an educational program for the media center where we have filmmakers, maybe like you, coming to the Indigenous Media Center, sharing your stories, sharing your vision, getting to know their knowledge and how they actually work, because they are very, very clever filmmakers. They're not less clever than anybody else. So it's the sharing and the dialogue that we really want to make sure is happening. And we found an Indigenous impact producer in Brazil. He's gay. Everything is amazing. And he's really clever. And we want to be able to hire him for 2 years to keep running this educational program, where we're also going to show the territory to both land grabbers and indigenous at the same time, to sort of hold a dialogue between them, which is dangerous and difficult, but we really want to make sure that that's happening.
Well, exactly.
So I could give you a lot of quotes and numbers, but we've had the film out in multiple countries and territories, so we're doing good in that sense. But
amazing.
We really wanted to have a great impact campaign.
And that dialogue is so important. And so I'm going to go to Flore now. I'm wary of the time. Last week you were in Cannes again. What were you doing there?
Well, it was it's an initiative, a collective initiative from the entertainment industry here in France, where it started in January. Jérémy Régnier, with a big French actor, called 8 of us saying, we cannot go along like this. We have to do something. And we met at the CNC, and this is a big difference with what the Hollywood Climate Initiative is in France we have this big purveyor of subsidies for the movie industry, and if you do not obey their criteria, you cannot have the money from the state. And in France, the movie industry is highly subsidized. So they have a great power to, force any professional in the industry to follow some rules. So we gather, and we had this idea of launching a platform, internet platform, where we will gather all the initiatives that are already existing to produce, write, and distribute stories that matters. Not only, well, we have started this internet platform, but we are launching working groups because this is just the beginning. We have to do better. Again, when we are writing our stories, when we are producing our stories, and the big, where I'm going to put a lot of my energy is on the distribution, on the impact. What you were saying is that there's too many films. we are just like swamped by all the content everywhere, and the content that matters or can help us survive. Here, I think I can say that the content that can help us survive is diluted. You have to really spend time looking for it, because there's no money for it. Nobody believes in it because it's not going to make a lot of money. So when you do this kind of film, you have to have another agenda, but you have to have partners that believe in your agendas. And for the moment, the industry is really money-driven. It's like any industry. So where do you find the protection? What kind of corridor can you put in place so that that movie of you that is speaking to, just as big as an animal or animal, every Sigrid Dyekjaer's work, etc., find some path in the distribution moment of their life where they can fight back when there's a Spider-Man or a James Bond movie that is coming and just gonna kill it. It's just like the theater would erase you from the screen. So we have to protect these kind of films. And this is what we're going to do. So the collective's name is CUT, for Cinéma pour un collectif pour un cinéma uni pour la transition. It's very new, so I'm sorry. I'm not that good at pitching it. But it's really a very important moment in the industry, because one of the things that we are all realizing, whether we are activists or filmmakers or whatever, is that we have to come together. We're not going to make it alone. It's the moment where we were fighting for budget, fighting for attention, etc., is over. We have to gather our strength and help each other, because there's too many forces against that, and we're going to be stronger together. So that was a good push to go at Cannes and go back in the red carpet between two TikTokers. That was kind of the battle.
Amazing. Well, thank you both very much. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Sigrid and Flore. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.